Only two purposes are possible. One is sin, the other holiness. Nothing is in between. And which you choose determines what you see. For what you see is merely how you elect to meet your goal. What you see is how you choose to meet your goal of sin or holiness. Hallucinations serve to meet the goal of madness. This is the world of form, of time and space. Our belief that our happiness lies here meets the goal of madness. And that's pretty strong. These hallucinations are the means by which the outside world, projected from within, adjusts to sin and seems to witness to its reality. It still is true that nothing is without. Yet upon nothing are all projections made. For it is the projection that gives the nothing all the meaning that it holds. So again, these thoughts of pain and suffering in our mind get projected out. And it seems to be then characters and figures and happenings in a world outside of us that are upsetting us. But he's saying here that is literally nothing. We've projected nothing. We've projected these fearful nothing thoughts unto nothing. So this should be a great relief to everyone. Everything you've ever worried about, everything that's ever upset you is literally nothing. But why would we do this? Why would we do this to ourselves? Because it meets our goal to believe in the separation, our goal to believe that we're apart from God. Now, he's saying this is a mad goal. This is a goal of madness. To believe that we are what we are not, to believe that we are something other than complete wholeness, completely one with our Creator. But this is what this whole world is for. It's to make us believe the unbelievable. Holy Spirit doesn't believe it, doesn't believe in the separation and everything that seemed to follow from it. But Jesus is basically explaining to us that we do. And we've set up all of these defenses to try to reinforce our decisions, to reinforce what we believe is going on, to reinforce this false identity of what we think we are. But he wants us to set all this down. He explains more. This is all in chapter 20, section 8, if you want to go through it a little later on your own. He says, what has no meaning cannot be perceived. And meaning always looks within to find itself, and then looks out. Meaning always looks within to find itself, and then looks out. So again, we think that we look at the world, we see something, and what we see gives us the meaning or experience that we have. He's saying it's the opposite. Meaning looks within to find itself, and then looks out. Sometimes when we're talking about this, we've seen these sort of things that show like the eyes as a projector, like a movie projector that projects onto the screen. I think that's a beautiful way to see it. That we think that things are happening from outside and we're just reacting or dealing with what comes our way. But it's actually the other way around. He's explaining it so clearly. Meaning always looks within to find itself and then looks out. All meaning that you give the world outside must thus reflect the sight you saw within, or better, if you saw at all or merely judged against. So he's saying here, believing these separation thoughts in the mind is really no seeing. It's really judging against the truth. Vision is the means by which the Holy Spirit translates your nightmares into happy dreams, your wild hallucinations that show you all the fearful outcomes of imagined sin into the calm and reassuring sights with which he would replace them. So we want to turn to Holy Spirit. When these nightmares come our way, wild hallucinations, that's intense. When these wild hallucinations are in our experience, we want to turn to that right mind within. They are his substitutes for all the terrifying sights and screaming sounds. Anyone have terrifying sights, screaming sounds? Anyone go through that? He's explaining what we experience. They are his substitutes for all the terrifying sights and screaming sounds that the ego's purpose brought to your horrified awareness. They step away from sin, reminding you that it is not reality which frightens you, and that the errors which you made can be corrected. He's so loving here. He's really saying everything you've ever been upset about, you don't have to feel that. You don't have to buy into it. Let's look deeper. Let's look at the foundation on which it seemingly rests. That's what this whole journey is. We're going deeper. We're going deeper. And when we go deep enough, we get to a point where we see there's nothing. We see the nothingness he's talking about in this section. We see that all of these fearful images, they're like a house of playing cards. So you can build up a house of playing cards pretty tall if you're really talented at it. But it's like substanceless, right? It blows over in the slightest breeze. But we're actually seeing that there's not even a table. There's not a table that's holding it up. What's going to happen to a deck of cards, a house of cards that's resting on nothing? It falls away, right? It falls away. This is what happens to the ego thought system when we really, really go there. But it takes the willingness to look. We have to look. We have to look at our fear. We have to look at our beliefs. We have to look at all of our emotions, all of our judgments, all of our misperceptions. And we have to say, I want to go deeper. I want to really look at what's underneath. And that desire for healing will bring it. Sometimes it comes up, well, how come it doesn't happen right away? I want that healing. I want it. Why does this stuff keep going on? And I love the analogy of like the ego is like a fan, a ceiling fan. The ceiling fan's been on high. Well, what do you have to do if you want this ceiling fan? Maybe it makes a lot of noise. Maybe it's really irritating. What do you have to do if you want that fan to come into stillness? Well, you have to flip the switch that's running it. You have to cut the power that's keeping it going. Okay, great. Well, the fan doesn't immediately go to stillness, right? The fan just starts to slow down. And after some amount of time, it goes slower and slower and slower. And if we keep that power cut to the fan long enough, the fan will come into complete stillness. Well, that fan is like your ego mind. It's your ego thinking. And every time you have a judgment, every time you have a belief that's rooted in separation, you're flipping the switch back on again. So what's going to happen? The fan's still spinning. The fan's still making all that racket. The fan's still really frustrating. Let's cut the power again. Let's cut the power to that fan. And how do we do that? We acknowledge the fear that's feeding it. We acknowledge the upset. We look with Holy Spirit, with Jesus at our side. We look at whatever that scary thing is that's been going on in our minds. And then we notice that the fear kicks back in again. Fan starts spinning like crazy. How come I'm not calm yet? I just handed it over. Well, you just flip the switch back on again. So, that's why. That is why. And it's okay. It's okay to realize that that's what's happening and to realize you want to keep flipping that switch back off and you want to keep avoiding the temptation to flip it back on. Believing in this world, believing that you're a personal self in an unstable world is like flipping that switch on. It's like flipping the switch on over and over again. In the beginning, we might not even ever want to flip that switch off. We're so addicted to the spinning of the mind. And even after we start to practice, we might find ourselves like just going there over and over, even though we swear we want to find that stillness. It's how strong the addiction is to this pattern. And we can think of it like an addiction that we're practicing to break. In a worldly sense, worldly addictions can be really strong. Alcoholism, drug use, but there's all kinds, those are some of the more, obvious ones, but there's all kinds of addictions in a world, and they can be super strong. We can be actively working on ending a worldly addiction, and it's a process that goes on for years and years. Well, this is the deepest addiction that exists, the addiction to the personal self, the addiction to believing that you are separate from God. And of course, since this is the deepest addiction, it's gonna take even deeper dedication, even deeper determination to kick the habit of believing I am Barret. You are a personal self. But even more practically, to kick the habit of believing that you are a victim to something that someone has done or said, even if that someone is you. To believe that you are a victim is flipping the switch back on. To believe that someone else is a victim is flipping that switch back on. But how do we stop doing that? Well, we question the beliefs. We look at the beliefs and then we say, I don't want to keep doing that. Why? Because I see that every time I choose that, I'm back in the suffering. I'm back in the pain. It doesn't lead me where I want to go. And it doesn't really matter how many times you've flipped the fan back on. It doesn't matter because the choice is right now. Are you going to turn the switch off or are you going to leave it on? Are you going to look at the fear, the upset in your mind and do your best to offer it for forgiveness? Or are you going to cling on to it and try to run away from it, which never works? How many people here have tried to run away from their ego? I think we got a handful here. How many of you have been successful? None of you have been successful. It has never worked. Running away from your ego is not a solution. It doesn't even work even the short term, really. Doesn't work in the long term, doesn't work in the short term. Yeah, it's a bad option. But we do it because the ego is so unpleasant. It's so uncomfortable. We want to get away from it. Of course, who can blame you? But once you start to see that it doesn't work, then you want to work on a different way of moving through it. You want to practice flipping that switch off, finding a place to go and let the ego fan wind down until there's stillness. Jesus even talks about how there's really not a metaphysical answer, not a true metaphysical answer to the suffering, that the answer is an experience of peace. The answer is an experience of God's love. That's the answer. But that only comes when the fan stops spinning. So here we have fan spinning addict club. Addicted to spinning that fan of fear or jealousy, judgment, comparison. Oh, that's a good one. That'll keep that fan going. Don't do it. Don't compare yourself to others. No, no, bad idea. It doesn't even make any sense. When we really start to get the metaphysics, who are you comparing yourself to? There's no one else out there. There's literally no one else out there. There is only one mind having this experience of separation. Comparison makes no sense. All you have to do is realize what you want. I want peace. Good. That's it. I want peace. I don't feel peace right now, but I want peace. Okay. Jesus can work with that. That's a good start. That'll get us moving in the right direction. That's flipping the fan off. I want peace, even though I don't feel it. Good. Maybe we get a little taste of it, and then we say, I want peace consistently. Wow, that feels good. I want to break my addiction of turning the fan back on. Okay, let's work on that. Let's do that. How do you break an addiction in the world? When I was younger, I had an addiction to biting my fingernails. That's not a good addiction. It doesn't feel good. It kind of hurts and it's unpleasant and it looks kind of gross and your fingernails are a mess. Who wants that? But how did I break the addiction? Well, at first I decided I wanted to stop. And then I just did my best at not doing the thing that I didn't want to do anymore. The ego thinking is like that. It's just an addiction. It's an addiction to thinking a certain way, thinking in a way that leads to pain, that leads to suffering, that leads to feelings of smallness. And then from that place of smallness, what do? We try to puff ourselves up sometimes, make ourselves feel special, but it's just a coping mechanism for that small feeling. None of that really does it. These are all things we're addicted to. I remember there was even like a fingernail polish that tasted bad. I think I maybe did that for a little while. But we want that. We want to really get a taste of how unpleasant this is. I mean, we've all had the taste. We've all gone there so many times and experienced what it leads us to. We know it does not taste good. This habit of thinking this way is gross. And no one benefits from it. You don't benefit from it. No one around you benefits from it. Now, here in the community, we talk a lot about no people pleasing. Well, that's a bad habit. People pleasing. That tastes bad. Now, why do we do that? We do that because we think it'll make someone else happy. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Don't do it. Don't do it. What do we want instead? We want complete honesty. We want to be completely authentic. We want to come from our heart. We want to come from the truth within us. I was just saying the other day how you could think of this whole healing journey as the undoing of masks. It's like we wear all these masks and we start to actually think the masks are us, but they're not. They're just personas that we have worn maybe for our whole lives or almost our whole lives. But they're limiting, they're stifling, they keep us hidden, they keep us from fully experiencing the world. You know, how fun is it to wear a mask? I mean, if you wear a mask for Halloween or whatever, you can't see very well, right? It's got these tiny little holes. You gotta like peek through the holes. You don't have a very good experience. It's not a full range of what the experience is. It's limited. And these masks, these personas, these ideas of who we are, these beliefs, they limit us. Maybe the mask is a mother mask. Maybe the mask is a daughter mask, brother, sister, friend, coworker. There's all kinds of masks, grandparent. But are we open to just being what we are beyond all of those ideas of how we should be, how other people think we should be, or even tell us this is how you should be? Sometimes it's that strong. You should be more like this. Well, just because someone says that to you doesn't mean you have to agree with it. Doesn't mean you have to buy into that story. What is real in you? What is real that you want to come from? That's what you want to follow. There's like a stream. There's like a stream in your very being. And that stream is leading you to your experience of the fullness of God's love without any exception, without any limitation. Being in your authentic truth follows that stream. You're just going in that stream. But being an idea of who you should be, that's taking you out of the flow. And there's so many ideas of how you should be. Most people are kind of like crushed by how many ideas of how they should be they're trying to carry around. There's that beautiful poetic line, living lives of quiet desperation. Quiet desperation. This is like the worldly existence. We're carrying all these masks, all these expectations, and we're just trying to quietly, desperately get through another day. Sometimes people say that, I just want to get through today. Well, that's pretty grim. It's kind of sad. But this is what happens when we're carrying around all these heavy beliefs and feelings that we're not fully allowing, we're not fully feeling, we're not letting them move through. How about we shift from trying to get through another day to fully being here right now, to fully feeling what's here right now, to opening up to whatever it is. It doesn't matter if it doesn't look peaceful, it's here. Open the door, feel what's behind the door. It's been waiting. It's been waiting for you to open it. It's been calling to you, maybe for a long time. So we can open it up for some sharing here.
Yeah, I think for me it's kind of the same, people pleasing. Sometimes I'm still not sure if it's people pleasing, because the Course also talks about be helpful, be kind. So it's more, I think it's more that you recognize when you are people pleasing. Like, for example, I'm gonna leave the end of August, something, to another place. And then a mighty companion asked me if she can stay 1, maximum 2 nights. And I said yes, because it's just 2 nights. And then later I was thinking, do I really want this? Because I use the other bedroom to already put stuff there, what I'm packing. It's that discernment. The discernment I really can see, because at this moment, honestly, I just want to be alone. Just leave me alone. I want to go through. There's so much coming up to me lately, so much.
Yeah.
Do I really want to come in that place? Is this really guided, or did I said yes because I want to help her for 2 nights, whatever?
Well, I think maybe you already know the answer.
But okay, I really need to relax in that and just feel. I don't need to say yes now. Just take it step by step and just be honest. If I don't feel it, say no. If I don't feel it, that the other one is gonna stay here, even if it's for 1 night, just say no. It doesn't matter. There is no one there. You can't hurt anyone. Yeah, it's that true honesty to myself, and I need that. Really need that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the most loving thing you can do to say no.
I really can see that I have such a hard time with that. But I trust that I get the strength to do that.
Yeah.
Really the fear of hurting others when I'm hurting myself, to not following my heart.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're worthy of that love.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that came lately also up. All the stuff what came up, I really could see that deep down it's still the unworthiness. And of course, I get the reflection back. You know? So, yeah, thank you. Glad I could be able to talk about this. Yeah, it's really helpful.
That's beautiful.
Switch off the fan.
Beautiful. Exactly.
I don't want that anymore.
Throw the fan in the trash. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you, Joni.
Thank you.
It came to my mind when you talked about this. Maybe someone is about to open a new door, and I have been kind of struggling to make decisions about the coming autumn, like what to do and where to be the coming autumn, because, well, I am studying and it would be kind of logical to just continue my studies and kind of live a regular life with that. And I think I have been thinking already like half a year whether I want to continue the studies or whether I want to just take a break or what I want to do. And yes, that's how I feel. It's the logical thing to do for me, is to continue the studies. But somehow I feel that in my heart there is a whole another calling for this coming autumn, and it's just, it has been so difficult for me to just make a decision to follow that calling, because that would that would be like basically focusing on myself and going for retreats and a little bit of traveling, and I can feel that it's calling me so much more, at least to take half a year break from school and take a break from even working, and somehow just I don't know, meditate the whole autumn or something. And like, this is what came up when you mentioned about this, that maybe someone is about to open a new door, and I really feel like I would like to open this door, and yeah, just need to somehow make the clear decision about it. Yeah.
Well, that sounds great. I mean, you seem so light and joyful as you talk about it. So I think you know what sparks you. So I just say, yeah, that's beautiful.
Maybe there's also that I know that, like, for example, with my father, because my father is a lot about this kind of logical person and do things that make sense and, you know, something useful. And also he's a conservative Christian. So if I would tell him that, okay, I'm not continuing my studies, I'm not going to work, but instead I'm just going to do all kinds of retreats that are like meditating and not about Christianity. So I'm not waiting for that conversation. So maybe that's one thing that, like, him and a couple of other specific people, it makes it kind of tense to think about the moment when I kind of decided, and then I of course tell my close people about my plans. So yeah. And of course maybe my father is just a part of my own mind, so he's just representing that those fears that I have inside me. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi.
Sounds good if you can demonstrate to the conservative Christian how a free and mystic Christian can follow their heart.
Yeah.
You don't want to become conservative. I think it's sweet how you said that word, because I think you mean conservative.
Oh yeah, conservative.
But yeah, a conservative, you know, it's something that is
kind of like preserved, kept in a jar or something.
Yeah, you're coming alive, like, yeah, the spirit is coming out. Aladdin's lamp, like.
That's a beautiful thing. They say, you know, you can't put the genie back in the bottle, you know. It's like once the spirit comes out of those tight spaces, it doesn't fit back in.
You know, if I had been interested in pleasing my parents, I wouldn't have come very far. You know, you can't really live that way.
I know. Yeah, I have been aware about it for so long already, this tendency to somehow please them in some way, or tendency to at least avoid some kind of topics with my parents, and especially with my father. And I know that it's not useful for me to kind of avoid topics or do anything like according to what I think they would react. But there is some part of, I think it's my own emotional thing, that some ways that they talk to me, or the way that they show worry to their own worry to me, or their emotions to me. So that's not easy for me to kind of receive. There is this kind of dynamic that sometimes it's just somehow too intense for me. At least I don't know. It's, yeah, I have been aware about this for many years, but it has felt like it's a long work with those dynamics somehow.
Yeah, it's a journey to release just these few relationships that have such impact, to start to think of the whole world, the whole universe. Like, we've been trained and taught to just be so restricted and so caught in a few relationships. But really, there is so many more. There's so much more waiting, So when your heart calls for it, it's a gift to yourself to break out of that and take the steps you're called to, get out of your comfort zone, even if you don't know how it's going to look.
Yeah, I really want to take that step.
All right, you got us in your corner.
It means we are supporting you.
Thanks.
Yeah, we're all about taking those leaps of faith. And they often look like you don't know what they're going to look like. Or you just know a little bit and you have to trust the rest.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks. It was nice to share this.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Feel like cheerleaders for leaps of faith. You're ready to jump out of your old comfort zone. We'll be like, yeah, do it.
Yeah, I think of Kirtana's song also with both of your shares. The song, in a fortunate life comes the call to be free from the cycle of bondage to this identity, she sings. In a fortunate life comes this call to be free. It's a little scary, but it's, it's to answer our own call, to take those steps. And I feel everyone here is into it, into these steps. Lena too. Yeah. Well, I think I just came over to say hi, and I love you all. Good to see you. Good to be with you.
Just take this beautiful space with us as we go tonight. We'll see you all again soon. for now.